I think when it comes to global warming, I think we're still coming out of an ice age. I think when the Earth is at its resting point, there's not ice caps on either end.
Yeah.
I think that's just something that is adjusting. I think eventually, like like we were talking about, Florida will probably be underwater. I think California will eventually lose a lot of its coastline, and same with that end. I mean, we have so many places that are already lower than water level that are on the coast. It's so strange that they're still there. Um, I think, and then watching ice patterns. A lot of people will tell you that how much ice that we've lost at the poles, but they won't tell you that we've also had more growth in ice, according to NASA, in the last, gosh, what was it? I'd have to look up the exact number, but this was reported by NASA because they were reporting the new growth of ice. Because the only thing that's being documented right now for the argument of global warming is the loss of ice, but they're not talking about the new growth, which is
Yeah.
actually very significant. And it's interesting that NASA, the people that are flying satellites around the planet, are the ones that were able to take pictures of it and study the actual growth of it. Um, Besides just sea levels rising or falling, because you have to take into account what new ice we're producing. Um, but once we get to that, then we look at, all right, we have ice core samples. We know what the CO2 levels were when like the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Do you think it was a bad environment, or do you think it was a good environment when it comes to healthy planet?
I mean, I think it was probably a healthy planet.
Oh yeah, I think vegetation thrived in different spots, of course, because the continents were different at the time. Because I'm a big supporter of the continental drift theory, and I do think it's a real thing, but it's a theory. Um,
Yeah.
I I think our carbon levels, with evidence, were much much higher then, and our atmosphere was actually better and more stable. We actually had a thicker atmosphere. Now that we've been goofing around with shit, um, if anything, we have less of an atmosphere, and it's not because we have too much carbon. Carbon is not the issue. We're carbon-based life forms. It's I carbon is not a bad thing. I don't know what that new thing is about, but yeah, I think it's weird when they talk about an abundance of carbon, and that's the root of the problem. Do I think humans contribute to it? Yes, and I think it's in different ways than we talk about. I think it's factory farming that contributes the most to global warming.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's the methane produced from us making these farms of animals that we're producing for food. It's the methane that they produce in large numbers. That's the gas that I think is messing with our uh, our ozone and our our climate in general, and actually messing up the ecosystem and how it works together. But that's the main one I would point to. It's not from burning fossil fuels. That's not the it's not the issue.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you look at things that are messing things up, there's a really good argument to make that wind farms. I don't know if you've ever lived around a wind farm. I have one right next to me. Um, Wind farms really fuck up the wildlife in the area, like extremely. And they were talking about. I mean, you can see the argument for birds easily, but I was surprised how much.
There's my son lives out in Wisconsin in cornfield land, and there's a lot of windmills out there.
Yeah,
Um, what what I've under what I well what I've read, and who knows if it's true or not, but that by the time a windmill is out of service, done, um, for good, that's about the time that it has become carbon neutral. With all it takes to make them, all the
because of
carbon used.
what it's saved from burning fossil fuels. Is that what you're saying? Like it's made its worth?
Yeah, but it's around the time that they're done, cannot no longer be used. So
Well,
really, it's not helping at all.
yeah, it almost cancels itself out.
Yeah,
Um,
but it makes people feel good.
yeah, but I think that's where the variables need to be like taken into place. So where they're putting these uh, windmills are on fields, are cornfields, like you were talking about. It's the same thing that they're doing with a lot of solar right now too. Is they're making solar fields and they're making um, the wind generators are actually going, or the wind turbines or whatever you want to call them. Those are actually going on farms, but they're so spread out, and they're usually in a linked system, and they kind of operate together. But they're spread out pretty far. But what's happening is every year when the uh, combines go through the field and harvest whatever it is that they were growing,
Mm-hmm.
you get a bunch of killed rodents and all kinds of little small mammal life. And what will happen is you'll get a bunch of birds flying all around the fields. That's why you'll see a bunch of crows and stuff like that flying around fields. It's because after they clear the field, there's a bunch of dead rodents and stuff in there. So they're going in and picking up the scraps and whatnot. And you throw in these wind machines basically that are messing up. They're easily messing up the airflow above the uh, the ground, and I could just imagine what it's like when you're also adding in hundreds of flying creatures at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of death that goes on around farms. Whether you're talking about the fucking spray that Monsanto's got you putting on all your crops to
Yeah.
ensure nothing infects it, but nothing else grows around it, um, including insects and everything else. Yeah, there's a lot of death in a cornfield that goes into making your food.
Yep, I agree.
And I mean, most of the fields around me are just feed fields, so they're going to cattle and they're going to horses and pigs, and
I heard I heard a, it's either a farmer or someone who um, is like in the agricultural business, whether it be government or whatever. But he gave a percentage of the corn grown in this country that is not suitable for human consumption.
yeah,
That they
like
use it for yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So then it
That's why
makes
I
you
said.
wonder, okay, well, they're feeding it to the cows and then we eat the
Think about this.
cows.
You've probably heard me say this before. The county that I live in is the largest producer of corn in the country, and they produce feed corn. So that makes sense to your numbers. I knew, like, I know my county is one of the biggest counties, and they produce corn in a lot of other counties, but they do it under the name of our county, and it's just like our county name is basically a company that makes corn for other counties where they grow it there, and it's all test stuff. Like they all have lab numbers on the fields and stuff like that. Like all of them are different batches created from different seeds because all the corns are made different in order to either fatten up the animal, offer different things inside of how they're growing it, and
Yeah.
it's weird because I was looking at that uh, when a family member of mine was running a horse stable, and you could see all the different diets were all put on each stable, and it was all based on this number rating system that they give the horses, unless there's some other reason that they have a diet issue that's medical or like health wise. But basically, it's based on this rating system that they give them of like I think it's 0 through 5, 0 being dead. Um, they rate you for how healthy your animal is, and
Yeah.
that's how they base what diet your animal's supposed to be on. And yeah, they just go around and check animals and check stables and check farms and give them this rating system, and that's what bases what food that they're supposed to have. You're not allowed to buy seeds outside of Monsanto.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't wash your seeds. You can't. There's a bunch of really weird rules.
Yeah. And you know the rules about when people want to um, test the safety of the Monsanto corn with like mice or rats. That there's all these stipulations, and it always says that you can't test more than 30 days. And some French scientists disregarded that and they kept testing. And they said about the 35th or 36 days, tumors started appearing.
That makes
And
sense.
like, yeah, it's no wonder that's you're only allowed to test for 30 days.
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't want to answer this, I totally understand. But the county that you live in um, is the fourth letter.
DeKalb County.
What's that?
DeKalb County. DEKALB.
Yeah, see, according to this, that's not even one listed in the top 5.
Oh,
This one
it's under
says,
different. Maybe it's under different names, like the companies that sell our corn.
well, this says Illinois had the top 5 counties in the country for total corn production. McLean County led the nation in corn production with nearly 71 million bushels.
I would have to see. I would have to see the companies that are selling corn in their county, because DeKalb corn is grown in Wisconsin, is what I mean. It's all coming from places here. This is where they're all getting the. This is where all the labs are and everything else is in our county,
Yeah.
and that we're sending our corn out to other farms, and all the other farms are growing DeKalb corn.
Okay.
So we're the biggest supplier of
the seed.
feed. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what?
Other
How do you
people are growing it.
how do you say this county? It's IROQUOIS. Rockois.
Say it again.
IROQUOIS.
I don't know that one.
Rockois.
Is it in central Illinois?
I don't know. That's just the name.
Oh,
And then there's Livingston County,
I know
LaSalle,
Livingston. And LaSalle's
and
20 minutes. LaSalle's 20 minutes away.
and then Champaign County.
Yeah, Illinois. That's the University of Illinois.
Yeah, this other one, the Rockois. I don't know. Let's see if we can find out where that is.
I'm guessing central. I'm guessing it's central and not northern, because I know most of the northern counties, all the way up to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And because I'm pretty far north. But yeah, even driving across the Wisconsin border, I see signs for our corn. I mean, and they're on other farms. So that's why I wonder what companies are taking credit for the growing of it, but we're all their suppliers, basically, of DeKalb corn. And they all have DeKalb corn signs. I saw a picture the other day. Johnny Knoxville was doing it was a video. Johnny Knoxville was doing an interview. He had a DeKalb corn hat on. The flying ear of corn. It's like a huge logo out here. Big collector's item.
Well, hey, this county is not too far south of Chicago.
South of Chicago? Okay.
Yeah, like straight down. Straight down. Is it 67 or 57?
I don't know.
It's hard. I can't see. It's like the more you zoom in, the smaller the sign gets, which makes no
Yeah.
sense. I think it's 57.
I know where 57 is. I don't drive on 57 very much. 57 is really long, and it runs all the way to a bunch of suburbs around the city.
Yeah.
57 is really long. I work out by 57, off of 57 most of the time when I'm driving out to the city, and they tell people I'm driving to Chicago. I drive through Chicago basically and go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where traffic is fucking miserable. In there, around 57, close to the city.
Yeah. It's
No,
well,
88's in my backyard, basically.
it's a little bit farther than I thought. It says 93 miles, an hour and a half south of Chicago.
Oh yeah, it's probably like closer to central Illinois
Yeah.
because it's almost 5 or 6 hours to get through Illinois from where I'm at. I'm assuming 90 miles. That'll put you about 2 hours down.
Yeah, it's really halfway between Chicago and Champaign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I stayed really south in Illinois for a little while. I stayed down by the St. Louis area for a little while, for a couple summers, in a really, really small town called St. Elmo.
Okay.
Not named after St. Elmo's fire, to the best of my knowledge, before that old man question comes.
Nah. Well, I mean, perhaps the movie's named after this.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a story. Like, I know the story of St. Elmo's fire. Well, the supposed story about the cow kicking over a lantern and all of that. And that's how the Chicago fire started, I thought. Or no, that was the Chicago fire story. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up. I don't remember the story for St. Elmo's fire. There's an actual story prior to the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I thought the movie was based on something. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't even know if I saw the movie.
But everybody always knows the reference.
Yeah.
Well, shoot. I don't even feel like playing video games anymore.
You know, I may have mentioned this to you before, but when I was in Chicago a couple times, it was actually my first time actually being in downtown Chicago. And then like a year later, I was there again. I was so impressed with how clean the area was. It's like San Diego's nothing like that. And there's like trash downtown, but you didn't see one piece of trash on the ground when I was there. It was.
When did you go?
Well, one time was during COVID.
Okay.
And then maybe a year or two before COVID.
The COVID one makes sense. I think Chicago has been going downhill since Disney and a lot of other people kind of pulled out of. We used to have a Vision Quest and a couple other Disney companies out in Chicago, and they kind of pulled out. And I always look at like what Disney did to New York. Like Times Square used to be so fucking dirty.
Oh yeah,
it was just, I don't know, Sodom and Gomorrah type dirty. You know, a lot of prostitution and drugs and
there's tons of porno shops.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it. Yeah.
And when it all got cleaned up, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, New York's like that place to visit again." Like it's nice and clean, and everybody's got to make it to Times Square at some point.
Yeah.
Chicago has its visitable areas that seem clean downtown, but if you travel anywhere off route, uh, there's safety concerns, like serious safety concerns. Like
Yeah.
I've told people that before. I wouldn't want anybody in my family just walking down certain streets in Chicago. It's not safe. It's not safe at all. Um, Gosh, yeah, it's just really not a safe place. I mean, and if you get out to some of the suburbs that I work in, like I've done landscaping for some of the suburbs, you're gonna find just straight used needles in the fucking drain. Like when you're raking yards, you just find used needles around. Like it's not. They cover it up well, but
Yeah.
you can drive under any underpass in Chicago, and you'll see all these fucking blankets under all of the underpasses where there's just 40 to 50 people sleeping. I mean, like I said, most of the time the homeless people are just kept kind of tucked away, and you can't really see them. They're all there. They're not going anywhere. And I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing now is the boldness. Um, you'll find people in wheelchairs rolling down, ramps that are going on to 57 with a sign trying to get money when they got people coming at them doing 40 miles an hour plus. It's
Yeah.
just not like it's really weird. There's just certain places you don't go, certain exits you don't take. Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Southside's always been worse than like um the main downtown areas and like the popular places. Um, there's plenty of really really nice Chicago restaurants. Don't get me wrong, but I think one of the people that watches our show is he's a chef at one of the Chicago restaurants. I won't say the restaurant or anything. I think I think it's a French restaurant though. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of really nice restaurants. It's just you got to know where to go, who to ask, and how to get there because
Yeah.
you'll have taxi drivers try to rob you. Like
Oh, really?
that's why I was happy when Uber and Lyft and all those became a thing because people didn't want to really fuck around with the taxi industry, and same with like people at train stations, people at bus stations, people at airports. These people that like snatch up your bag and try to do all this shit and try to like extort money from you when you're like leaving a building while they're trying to flag down a taxi for you that might
Yeah.
take you to the wrong spot, and it's just like, oh god, this is so weird. Like I don't know. I'd rather just take 5 minutes when I get off of a plane, a train, or anything, and just be like, hey, I'm just gonna book a ride real quick, or I'm gonna do it when I'm getting close to the area. Like I don't need everybody to grab my bag and steal an extra $20 from me. You'll spend $1 billion in Chicago if you don't know what you're doing.
Mhm.
People charge you for fucking everything in Chicago. It's
Yeah.
wild. Goofy place.
Oh, I had a friend who moved there from San Diego, and he was just talking about all the different fees for
Oh yeah.
everything. Yeah, it was crazy, especially the parking and
Oh yeah. The parking's really weird because it's like time based. Like you can
yeah,
park in certain sides of the road at certain times, and then you got to be at the other side of the road. And the one ways out there are horrible. Um, the way people reserve spots is so weird. They'll just start putting lawn chairs and shit out in fucking a parking spot and expect
yeah,
you not to park there. I always thought that was really weird. Trying to reserve a spot on a street for your
yeah,
car. I'll go out and move somebody's little lawn chair that they decided to put in a parking spot if I have to park a truck because I'm working on a house. What's going on,
yeah.
Cosmo?
Yeah, like I
What's,
said though,
what's
I
the
I
parking
mean,
like in LA?
um, what's weird is My friend and I went up to, I don't know if you ever heard of Pink's hot dog stand.
Sounds
We,
sounds familiar.
we went up to go record shopping, and we decided to go to Pink's just because it's such a, you know, iconic place. You'll see limos pulling up with, movie stars getting out to eat there. And um, I parked on the street and didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the signs. I had have a handicap placard,
Yeah.
so I just put that up, and because they won't tow a car with a handicap sticker or placard,
Who won't?
and
In LA, they won't.
anybody in
Who
California, at
in
least
California?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
at least L.A., Orange County, and San Diego. I know they don't. They'll ticket them, but they won't tow them.
It depends on where you're parked. At least around
Um,
here, if you're parked in a fire lane, if you're parked in like there's certain places they will tow you away out here. Double parked
so yeah,
in a road.
yeah. Um, so we eat, and uh,
Not secretly, Cosmo. It was openly. I was watching.
yeah, we,
I do like watching a little Tomb Raider here and there. Actually, the last time I really got into a series that Pesci was playing is when he was playing all the Tomb Raider games. But yeah, so
so yeah,
you got
we didn't find we. It wasn't difficult for us to find a parking spot. Now that's not to say that parking's great in LA, because it's not. But we parked. I didn't pay attention to all the signs. I just put my placard up. We come out of the restaurant, and every car on the street is gone except mine, and there's a ticket on the windshield. So I'm like, um, I'm pissed. So I go up to the guy. I drive up to where the guy giving the tickets, and I'm like, hey man, I got a handicap placard. I just lay into him, and I just keep just drive off, and I start reading the signs. I'm like, where are all the cars? Well, at a certain time of day, every car has to be off the street because they use the parking lanes for driving.
yeah, turns it into
And
a one-way street.
yeah, yeah. Or I mean, it might be a two-way street, but you can now drive in that the parking lane. So that's why you have to have your car off the street by 4 or you're towed. There were tow trucks just lined up to tow people away.
Oh, I bet.
Um, yeah. So I was fortunate they didn't tow me. And my friend goes, he goes, I almost told you that there was plenty of parking in the Pink's parking lot, but I figured, no big deal. We'll just cross the street and. But yeah, that was my experience. And then one time, uh, when my son was young, just me, my son, and my first wife, we went up to Hollywood just to kind of stroll around, and we ended up parking on a side street because I didn't want to pay for parking in one of the parking lots. And I had bought my wife, just like a week or two before we went, one of those Dooney and Burke purses that are like, back then in 94 or 95, they were like $300. And for some reason, she didn't want to take it with her. And I'm like, you can put it under the stroller. It's like, no, I'll just take everything out and put it in the trunk. So we come back, I put the key in to open the trunk, and it won't turn. And I looked at it, I go, someone broke in and stole your purse. They were watching. And we opened the trunk, and sure enough, it was gone.
Yeah.
That hurt, because back then, $300 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I wasn't making a whole lot. I think I was making.
Was your car unlocked?
No, my car wasn't unlocked. They just used something to get into the trunk, probably just a screwdriver or something.
I
And
just didn't know if they got into a back door because I know all of the trunks have that emergency.
yeah, no, everything was locked up, and I didn't have an alarm on that car. Not that would have, prevented it from happening, but
No.
would have at
Maybe
least
start
drawn
looking
some
for
attention or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, I'm more about covering